The human prisoner. The cold steel walls of the alien ship hummed quietly. Bright lights blinked across control panels. In a dark cell, a human sat alone, chained and silent. His name was Corin Hale, a soldier from Earth. He had fought in the final battle when the alien fleet came to destroy humanity. Earth lost. Everyone else was dead. He was the last one captured alive. Now, he sat on the floor, blood on his face, a sharp pain in his ribs. But his eyes were still full of fire. The door hissed open. She stepped in, tall, strong, and terrifying. Her name was Veltra. She was a war commander of the Zarquin Empire, one of the most feared species in the galaxy. Her armor was black and silver, her face hard like stone, her violet eyes glowing in the dark. She walked slowly into the room, her boots echoing. Corin looked up but didn't speak. Veltra looked at him. For a long time, she said nothing. Then, in perfect English, she asked, "Why didn't you surrender?" Corin smiled, though his lip was bleeding. "Because I'm human." Veltra tilted her head, like a scientist looking at a strange bug. "You lost. Your people are gone. Your planet burns. And yet, you still smile." He shrugged. "That's what we do." She didn't understand. She had seen prisoners beg, cry, scream. But this one didn't even blink. She stepped closer. "Are you not afraid of death?" she asked. "I am," he said. "But I'm more afraid of losing who I am." Veltra frowned. She pressed a button on her wrist. The chains around Corin's arms released with a loud click. He stood up slowly, his legs shaking. He was weak, but still he stood straight, his eyes never leaving hers. "You will come with me," she said. "Where?" he asked. "You will see." Guards followed as she led Corin through the long metal halls of the ship. Other aliens stared at him, shocked, a human, alive, walking free. They stopped outside a strange room, not another cell, but a large space full of lights, screens, and strange tools. "This is my private chamber," Veltra said. "You are no longer just a prisoner. You are a subject." "A subject of what?" "Study." She began asking him questions. About Earth, about humans, about how they fought without fear, how they helped each other even while dying. Corin answered some. Some he didn't, but one question made him pause. "Why did you protect that alien child during the battle?" she asked. Corin looked confused. "You saw that?" "We watched the recordings." Corin looked down, his voice soft. "Because he was just a kid, not a soldier, not an enemy, just scared, like my little brother was, before they killed him." For the first time, something flickered in her eyes, something soft. "You risked your life. For one of us?" she asked. Corin nodded. "That's what being human means." Veltra didn't respond. She stood silently for a moment, staring at him. Then, without a word, she left the room. Corin was alone again. But this time, there were no chains. He walked to the window. Outside, the stars were bright. Somewhere in that endless sky, Earth was burning. But in his heart, he felt something. Hope. He didn't know why she let him go. He didn't know what she was thinking. But something had changed, and he knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The warrior's curiosity. The stars outside Veltra's chamber didn't blink. They burned, cold and distant, just like she had been all her life. She stood in silence, watching the human from a hidden screen. He didn't know he was being watched, or maybe he did. Either way, he didn't care. He sat by the window, legs crossed, face bruised but calm. Like a monk, like a ghost, like something her empire had never prepared her for. Strange creature, she whispered to herself. She had fought many wars, conquered dozens of planets, broken entire armies. But this one fragile human disturbed her more than any battlefield ever had. Not because of what he did, but because of what he didn't do. He didn't scream. He didn't beg. He didn't break. Corin Hale, the last human prisoner, had become a puzzle. When the commander returned to her private chamber, she didn't speak to him immediately. She just stared. "You're watching me again," he said without turning. Veltra's voice was steady. "How did you know?" "Because the silence feels heavier." She blinked. "You feel silence." Corin finally turned to her. "When all your friends are dead and you're the only one left, you feel everything." That answer made her pause. She walked over to a table and tapped a hologram. A globe of Earth appeared. "I've seen your wars, your crimes, your chaos. You kill your own kind. Yet you call yourself civilized." Corin stood up slowly. His body still hurt, but his voice was strong. "We're not perfect, but we care. Even if we argue, fight, or fall, we help each other stand back up." Veltra narrowed her eyes. "You protected that alien child. You had a weapon. You could have used it on my soldiers. But you threw it down." Corin nodded. "Because sometimes winning means not fighting." She didn't understand. Her empire was built on power, force, and fear. Surrender was weakness. Mercy was death. Yet this human, small, soft, broken, spoke of something stronger than any weapon she'd ever seen. She decided to test him. "You may move freely in this chamber," she said. "There is food, water, even access to some of our data." Corin raised an eyebrow. "Is this still a prison?" Veltra stared. "It is. A lab." Corin chuckled. "Sounds like a nicer word for cage." Over the next few days, Veltra observed him closely. He studied their alien language and picked it up fast. He repaired a broken drone in minutes. He even sang once, quietly, a sad old Earth song. It echoed through the metal walls like a ghost. The song made her pause. "What is that?" she asked through the speaker. "A lullaby," Corin said. "My mom used to sing it to me when the world felt scary." Why would a mother sing in danger? To remind her child that love is stronger than fear. Veltra felt a strange twist in her chest. She turned off the speaker. Later that night, she watched a recording of Corin helping a younger soldier during battle. The boy had lost an arm. Corin had carried him through fire, crying, bleeding, but refusing to stop. "You're not a soldier," she whispered. "You're something else." The next morning, Corin found a surprise. On the table was a warm plate of food. Real food, not prison mush. Beside it was a clean shirt. And next to that, a memory crystal. He picked it up and looked at the camera. "You're curious about humans," he said. "Let me show you." He plugged it in. The screen lit up. Old Earth videos. Laughter. Rain. People dancing in the streets. A child running through a park. An old couple holding hands. Veltra watched all of it from her command deck, her expression unreadable. "Why would they waste time dancing?" one of her officers asked. She didn't answer, but her hand curled into a fist, tight and unsure. That evening, Corin sat across from her, face to face. No weapons, no armor. Just questions. "Why am I still alive?" he asked. Veltra didn't answer right away. "Because," she said slowly, "you don't act like a killer." Corin smiled sadly. "That's funny. I've killed more aliens than I can count. Yet you cried for one." He looked down. "I don't hate your people. I hate war." Veltra stood, eyes hard again. "Don't mistake my curiosity for weakness, human. I still serve the Zarquin Empire." "But you're starting to wonder," Corin said softly. "Aren't you?" She turned without a word. But something had changed. Later, in the ship's shadows, other officers spoke in whispers. "Why hasn't the human been executed? Why is he in her private chamber? Has the commander lost control?" Rumors began to spread. Jealous eyes watched her every move. Veltra knew it, and yet she didn't stop. She watched Corin again that night. He sat by the window, staring at the stars. "I don't know what you are," she whispered to the screen, "but you are not weak." Then she made a choice that could destroy her career or her life. She tapped her wrist and sent a command. "Given access to the central library. Let's see what happens." The test. The chamber was quiet again, but it felt different now. Corin sat at the long metal table, staring at the glowing screen in front of him. Alien text scrolled across it, symbols, maps, star systems, war records, and science the humans had never seen before. Veltra had given him access to the central library. Not full access, but enough to learn, enough to test him. She watched silently from her command deck, her arms crossed. "If he tries to send a message," her second-in-command warned, "we can end him in one breath." Veltra didn't respond. Her eyes stayed locked on the screen. "This is not about weakness," she said at last. "This is about truth." Corin leaned forward, slowly pressing buttons. He could feel the weight of it all. This wasn't just data. It was history. It was secrets. It was power. One button. One message. That's all it would take to signal Earth's few survivors, if there were any left. Maybe they could strike. Maybe they could escape. But something held him back. He saw Veltra's reflection on the dark glass wall. Watching. Waiting. No, not waiting for betrayal. Waiting for proof. He pulled up a file titled, "The Fall of Terran Outpost 17. His heart twisted. That was where his brother had died. He tapped play. Grainy footage. Human soldiers screaming. Tsar. Quinn ships firing on civilians. Fire. Blood. And then Corin, carrying a wounded boy, refusing to leave him. Refusing to run. The recording ended. He didn't cry. Not this time. But his hand shook as he closed the file. He turned to the screen and typed something instead. A single message. Not to Earth. Not to allies. To Veltra. It said, "You showed me your truth. Let me show you ours." Then he uploaded Earth footage. She received the message in her command deck. For a moment, she froze. Then the screen in front of her filled with images. Humans helping each other after earthquakes. A firefighter running into a burning building. A young girl giving food to a homeless man. Soldiers putting down weapons to rescue alien children. Kindness. Sacrifice. Love. "Why is he showing us this?" one of her officers asked. Veltra's voice was low and steady. "Because he knows what power really is." Later that night, she entered his chamber. He didn't stand. He just looked at her and said, "You didn't need to test me. I'm not your enemy." She said nothing at first, then walked to the table and placed something down. A small silver ring, human-made. "Where did you get this?" he asked, shocked. "It was found on the body of a Terran nurse. She died shielding alien children from our bombs." Corin stared at it, his voice cracking. "That was my friend. Her name was Sophia." Veltra sat across from him. For the first time, no armor, just her. "No one ever told me about her bravery," she said. "Only that she was weak. Soft." "She wasn't weak," Corin said. "She was the strongest of us all." Veltra looked down at the ring. "We are taught to conquer, to control, to erase weakness. But what if kindness is not weakness?" Corin leaned forward. "Then everything you were told is a lie." Outside the chamber, the whispers were turning into warnings. She has gone too far. She is no longer loyal. She sympathizes with the enemy. The next morning, Corin was woken by a loud crash. The door to his chamber burst open. 5 armed soldiers stormed in. "On your knees," one shouted. Corin raised his hands. "What's going on?" Veltra walked in behind them, her face cold, unreadable. "Corin Hale," she said loudly, "you are under arrest for attempting to corrupt imperial systems." His heart dropped. "You think I betrayed you?" Her eyes narrowed. You accessed restricted history. You sent data. You told me to. I told you to learn, not to speak. The soldiers pulled him to his feet roughly. But then, he saw it. Her hand, tucked behind her back, where no one else could see, her fingers signed a small symbol. Trust me. Corin didn't fight. He let them drag him through the halls. The cell they threw him into was colder, darker, smaller. A real prison this time. But he smiled anyway. Because he understood the game. This wasn't a punishment. It was protection. For both of them. Back in the command deck, Veltra faced the Imperial Overseer via hologram. A massive alien, his voice like thunder. You broke protocol, he said. You allowed the human to access sacred data. I followed the test parameters, she lied smoothly. I observed him. He showed no threat. He sent files to your console. Cultural files. Not weapons. Not codes. Just ideas. The Overseer growled. Ideas are dangerous. Yes, she said. And that's why I need more time. The hologram flickered. You have 3 cycles. Then he dies. Publicly. She bowed. Understood. That night, she returned to the dark cell. Corin was waiting. Well, he said, how's the Empire treating their golden commander? Veltra stood silently. Then she whispered, they've ordered your execution. In 3 cycles. Corin nodded. Guess that's one way to shut someone up. But I'm not letting that happen, she said. I'll find a way. He looked at her, carefully. Why? She didn't answer for a long time. Then she finally said, because I think you're kind. Might be the only hope this galaxy has. Kill order. The arena was silent. It was shaped like a bowl of fire. Deep metal walls, black stone floors, and rows of armored warriors watching from above. Every corner glowed with cruel red light. In the center stood Corin Hale. His hands were tied behind his back. His shirt was torn. His face was bruised. But his eyes, they still held that strange human light. Above him, on the platform, stood Veltra. Her armor was perfect, her posture strong, her face blank. She held a long silver blade. The crowd waited. The Empire had spoken. Execute the human in front of the fleet. Not because he was dangerous, but because he had made them think. Corin didn't speak. He didn't beg. He just looked up at her, steady and calm, like a man who knew this was never about death. It was about truth. Veltra stared back. Her fingers gripped the hilt of the blade. Her orders were clear. But her heart was a battlefield. 3 nights ago, she had stood in the dark, reading Corin's message over and over. You showed me your truth. Let me show you ours. She hadn't been able to sleep since, because his truth had shaken everything she believed, because she could still hear that earth lullaby in her head, because she could still feel the moment he looked at her not as an enemy, but as someone who might understand. And now, they wanted her to kill him, to silence that truth. The Overseer's voice boomed from the upper deck. Commander Veltra, you will perform the execution. Prove your loyalty to the Zarquin Empire. Every eye turned to her. She stepped forward, blade in hand. Her mind screamed with memories. Corin shielding that alien child. Corin fixing a broken drone with no tools. Corin smiling even when he was in chains. He is not the enemy, her thoughts whispered. But if she didn't obey, she'd be next. She stood before him now, blade raised. Corin met her eyes. No fear, just trust. I won't kneel, he said quietly. But I forgive you. Those words cut deeper than any sword. Her hands trembled. She raised the blade higher. And then, Selam. She drove it into the ground at his feet. The metal rang like thunder through the arena. Gasps filled the air. Veltra turned to the crowd. This human is not our prisoner. He is our mirror. The crowd shouted. The Overseer's voice roared. What are you doing? Veltra's voice was steady. He has done what no warrior here ever dared. He faced us with mercy. Guards rushed forward. She stepped in front of Corin, drawing her sidearm. I will not kill truth to protect a lie. Corin's eyes widened. Vale, what are you doing? Changing everything, she said. The guards surrounded them. Corin grabbed the sword from the ground. Still think I'm not dangerous, he said, smirking. Vale Tra grinned. Let's find out. They fought side by side. Blades, fists, fire. She covered him, fast and precise. He defended her back like a shield. Two warriors, one alien, one human, facing an entire army together. The arena turned into chaos. Explosions, sparks, screams. And through it all, they didn't fall. But they were still surrounded. Too many soldiers, too many eyes, too many guns. Corin whispered, we can't win this. We don't have to win, Veltra said. We just have to get out. Suddenly, the ground shook. A blast opened a section of the arena wall. A stolen transport ship hovered outside. A voice crackled through the speaker. Need a ride? Corin laughed. I know that voice. It was Jenna, a rogue alien engineer who owed Corin a favor, and never liked the Empire anyway. Veltra grabbed his arm. Jump. They leaped through the smoke and fire as bullets flew past them. The ship's doors slammed shut. Jenna whooped from the cockpit. That's the craziest entrance I've ever seen. Corin coughed. We call it human style. Veltra collapsed into a seat, armor cracked, but alive. Corin turned to her. You just turned your whole empire against you. She looked at him. I've turned toward the truth. But outside, alarms wailed. Ships took off. Fighters locked on. They were being hunted. Corin looked out the window. They're coming. Jenna nodded. We've got 3 minutes before they catch us. Veltra stood up, swaying but strong. Then we run, but not forever. She tapped into the ship's nav system. There's an old moon base, she said. Hidden. Abandoned. We can disappear there. Regroup. Corin sat beside her. Regroup for what? Veltra looked at him, eyes fierce. For something the Empire can't stop. In the silence that followed, they both breathed in the moment. They were fugitives now. But more than that, they were allies. Something had begun in that arena. Not a war. A movement. And it started with a human who refused to kneel. And an alien who refused to kill. The escape. The ship shook hard as plasma blasts hit the rear engines. Corin gripped the side of the seat. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Smoke filled the cabin. The hum of the stolen transport turned into a scream. Jenna. He yelled over the noise. Tell me this ship has shields. Jenna, their rogue alien pilot, cursed under her breath. Shields are holding. Barely. Behind her, Veltra stood at the tactical console, her fingers flying across the glowing screen. They've locked missiles. We have 30 seconds. No more. Corin looked at her. She wasn't just fighting. She was commanding. Even now, even hunted, she moved like a leader. How far's that moon base? He asked. Close, she said, but they'll be faster. The console flashed red. Incoming, Jenna shouted. A sudden silence filled the ship, just one heartbeat, long enough to feel like the end. Then, boom. A blast tore past them, missing the hull by inches. We won't make it like this, Corin yelled. Veltra's eyes narrowed. We need a shadow. What? She pointed to the screen. A massive field of drifting rock and ice spun near the moon. A debris cloud. Remnants of an old mining station. We hide inside, she said. Then vanish. Jenna nodded. It's suicide. Then aim carefully, Veltra replied. The ship dove toward the cloud. Behind them, 4 enemy fighters closed in. Sleek, fast, merciless. The cloud loomed large, A graveyard of broken ships, frozen metal, and shattered dreams. Corin closed his eyes. I hate space. You'll hate dying more, Jenna muttered. The transport spun through the debris, weaving between giant slabs of rock. Blasts echoed around them. One engine caught fire, but the pilot didn't flinch. Veltra leaned in. Now cut engines. What? Jenna said. Cut engines. Let them think we're dead. Jenna flicked a switch. The lights dimmed. The engine fell silent. In the black, they drifted. The enemy ship scanned the area, then sped past, missing them completely. Inside the silent ship, they all held their breath. Then, Jenna exhaled. We're clear. Corin let out a soft laugh. I'm adding that to my list of insane escapes. Veltra looked at him. You humans are full of surprises. You haven't seen anything yet. 1 hour later, they landed on the dark side of a forgotten moon. The base was buried beneath thick ice and jagged stone. Once a mining outpost, it had been shut down during a war decades ago. Now, it was a skeleton of rust and silence. They stepped out, feet crunching on frozen ground. Corin looked around. This place gives me horror movie vibes. Veltra moved ahead, scanning the structure with her wrist console. Still has power. Minimal, but enough. They entered. Inside, dust and frost covered everything. Steel walls echoed each step, but it was safe. Hidden. They sealed the doors. Later, in a small chamber that once held workers' meals, they lit a fire in an old cooking unit. Warmth returned. Light danced on the walls. Corin sat beside it, arms crossed. So what now? Veltra stood near a console, her face in shadows. We gather allies. From where? He asked. You're a traitor now. I'm just a war relic. She turned. There are others like me. Silent. Watching. Some don't believe in this war anymore. And there are more humans out there. Survivors. You think they'll follow you. She walked closer. No, they'll follow you. Corin raised an eyebrow. Me. You gave me reason to disobey, she said quietly. You made me believe in something I didn't understand. Now others need to see what I saw. Corin fell silent. Then, after a moment, he whispered, Why are you really doing this? She hesitated. My father was a general, she said. He told me mercy was for the weak. I spent my whole life trying to be strong enough to earn his approval. Corin nodded slowly. I know that kind of pressure. But then I met you, she said. And I saw something stronger than control. I saw choice. He looked at her, eyes softening. You chose to save me when it could have cost you everything. She smiled faintly. I didn't choose to save you. I chose to save myself from becoming something I couldn't live with. Jenna entered, wiping engine grease from her face. Bad news. We've got 3 working rooms, 2 beds, and 0 food after 2 days. We'll make it work, Corin said. Veltra tapped into the comm system. There's an old signal tower nearby. We fix it, we can broadcast. Broadcast what? Jenna asked. Veltra looked at them both. Hope. Over the next days, they worked like a team. Corin and Veltra repaired the signal tower with broken wires, old tech, and clever tricks. They spliced alien tools with human cables. Jenna secured the perimeter, setting up traps and scanners. Slowly, the base came alive. And then, the signal went out. Not a cry for help. Not a call for war. Just one message. This is Commander Veltra and Human Corin Hale. We don't serve the Empire. We serve truth. If you believe there's another way, come. The galaxy was vast. They didn't know who would hear. But somewhere, far from that moon, an alien worker paused at her console. A rebel captain turned his head. A human boy in hiding turned up the volume. One by one, the message found hearts. And far above, the Empire grew nervous. Because the fire they feared most wasn't war. It was an idea. And it had just been born. The rescue. The message spread like wildfire through the shadows of the galaxy. Some ignored it. Some laughed at it. But a few listened. A rebel ship answered first. Then a hidden colony. Then 2 alien deserters who had once fought beside Veltra. They came in silence. No flags. No armies. Just small ships, quiet hearts, and a question in their eyes. Could this strange human and fallen commander really change anything? Corin stood outside the moon base, watching the stars blink like slow, steady heartbeats. He never thought he'd be part of something like this. Not after losing Earth. Not after losing his brother. Not after becoming nothing more than a living relic, as Veltra once called him. But now, people were listening. They were hoping. Behind him, in the control room, Veltra paced. "There's a problem," she said, her voice tight. Corin turned. "What is it?" "The signal was picked up by a spy," she said. "The Empire intercepted it. They've traced one of our allies and taken them." "Who?" She looked at him, expression unreadable. "Sophia's brother, the boy you saved." Corin's heart dropped. He remembered the child from Earth. His name was Nico, just 10 years old during the war. Corin had carried him through rubble and fire when everyone else had run. Nico had grown, now a teenager, a fighter, a voice of peace among scattered human survivors. "They have him," Veltra said, "on one of their black ships, deep space." Corin clenched his fists. "Then we go." Jenna entered, already holding her flight jacket. "I thought you'd say that." The plan was madness. 3 rebels, 1 stolen transport, against a warship crawling with Imperial guards. But Corin didn't hesitate. Not for Nico. Not for family. The warship floated in deep orbit above a dead asteroid field. Huge, silent, watching the stars like a hungry predator. Inside, Nico sat alone in a cold cell, bruised but unbroken. His eyes stared at the ceiling. He had heard the message. He knew they were coming. "I believe in you," he whispered. Veltra's ship emerged from behind an asteroid, using stealth shields to slide close. Corin loaded his weapon. "No killing unless we have to." Veltra glanced at him. "Even if they shoot first." He paused. "Especially then." She nodded. "Human rules." Understood. They breached the outer hull using the service shaft. The ship was dim, silent, full of tight corridors and echoing footsteps. Jenna tapped into the ship's systems. "I've locked the main doors. We've got 15 minutes." Veltra led them through the maze, fast and quiet. Finally, they reached the detention wing and froze. An ambush. 20 guards, blasters aimed. The overseer himself stood behind them, grinning with sharp teeth. "I was hoping you'd come," he said. Veltra stepped in front of Corin. "Let the boy go. This is between us." He laughed. "You betrayed your kind. For this." He looked at Corin with disgust. "This soft, broken thing." Corin stepped forward. "I'm not broken. I just bend. And when you bend too far," the overseer growled, "you break." Then he raised his weapon at Corin. But something moved faster. Nico. From his cell, he slammed a pipe into the wall, shorting the lights. Darkness swallowed the room. Chaos exploded. Corin tackled 2 guards. Veltra disarmed a third with a brutal spin. Jenna fired stun rounds into the smoke. Sparks flew. Alarms wailed. Corin reached the cell door, forced it open. "Nico." He grabbed the teen's hand. "Let's get out." "I knew you'd come," Nico said, eyes wide with joy. They ran back the way they came, but the exit was blocked. Jenna cursed. They locked the bay. "We need another way," Veltra said, checking the map. "There's an old launch chute used for emergency pods." Corin nodded. Let's move. They fought through the halls, blast after blast. Corin took a hit in the arm, but kept going. Veltra shielded Nico with her own body. They reached the launch chute. Jenna hacked the panel. It stuck. Veltra stepped forward and ripped it off with her bare hands. "Go," she shouted. "Get the boy out of here." Corin grabbed Nico and jumped into the pod. Jenna followed. Veltra paused. Corin looked back. "You're coming, right?" She looked up at the corridor. Imperial soldiers closing in. "I'll delay them," she said. "You launch now." "No," Corin shouted. "We do this together." Veltra smiled. "You made me believe in something better. Now believe in me." She slammed the hatch shut. The pod launched. Inside, Corin held Nico close as the pod streaked through space, fire trailing behind it. From the window, he saw the ship shrinking, guards firing at Veltra's silhouette as she turned and disappeared into the shadows. The pod landed hard on the surface of the moonbase. Jenna opened the hatch. They spilled out into the snow. Corin stared at the stars. "She's still in there." Jenna placed a hand on his shoulder. "She'll survive. She's tougher than all of us." Corin didn't speak. He just stood there, eyes burning. "She believed in me," he whispered. "Now it's my turn." That night, the stars felt different. Not just distant lights, but calls to action. People were listening now. More messages came. More rebel ships answered. And deep inside that Imperial ship, Veltra opened her eyes. Bruised, bleeding, but not broken. A whisper in her mind. Humans don't break. They bend. She smiled through the pain. The lesson. The stars above the moon base burned brighter that night. It wasn't just light. It was movement. Ships, small ones, big ones, alien, human, hybrid. They didn't come with weapons drawn. They came with questions. They came with hope. And at the center of it all stood Corin Hale, once a prisoner, once a broken man, now a symbol of something no empire could ever understand. He watched the new arrivals step out of their ships, engineers, soldiers, farmers, rebels, even a few quiet faces from the empire itself. Enemies, now curious allies. Jenna nudged his arm. "You did it, soldier." Corin shook his head. "No, she did." They hadn't heard from Veltra since the rescue. No signals, no escape pod, no word. But deep in his bones, Corin felt something. "She's alive," he whispered. "I know it." That night, he stood before the crowd in the old launch bay, now turned into a gathering hall. He didn't use a script. He didn't raise his voice. He just spoke. Simple, human. "Years ago," he began, "I was captured, beaten, watched. They expected me to beg." He paused. "But I didn't. Not because I'm brave, not because I'm strong, but because I remembered who I was." He looked at their faces, so many species, so many eyes, but all watching him now with something no weapon could buy. Respect. "We humans, we don't break. Not easily. We hurt. We cry. We fall. But we rise, not just for ourselves, but for each other." He held up a small metal ring. "Sophia gave her life saving a child from the Empire. That child grew up. He's here now. Alive. Because of her." Corin's eyes found Nico, standing near the back. The boy smiled, eyes shining with quiet pride. "We are not the strongest, or the fastest, but we carry something no empire, no war, no fear can erase." He took a breath. "We carry choice." A silence followed. Then hands clapped. First a few, then many, then all. Applause roared through the moon base like thunder. But far above, the storm was building. The Zarquin Empire had heard the speech. They had tracked the ships, seen the rebels gathering, watched their enemies rise again, Not with weapons, but with belief. They responded the only way they knew how. With fear. A fleet was coming. 30 ships, warships, cruisers, burners, set to erase the moon, the rebels, the message. The next morning, the warning came. Jenna ran to Corin, breathless. They're coming. Full force. 20 minutes. He stood slowly, shoulders heavy. Nico stepped beside him. What do we do? Corin didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked to the old signal tower. Same one where the message began. He opened the mic. This time, he didn't send a whisper. He sent a roar. This is Corin Hale. We are not afraid. You can destroy this moon, burn our homes, kill our bodies, but the idea is already alive. And it's bigger than you now. You think mercy is weakness. Then tell me, why are you so scared of it? Silence followed. Then, a voice answered. Not from the fleet, from a hidden channel. Weak, scrambled, but real. Corin leaned close, heart pounding. It was her. Veltra. Corin, don't run. Let them see us, all of us, together. Let them see what truth looks like. His heart surged. She's alive, he whispered. She's still fighting. The fleet arrived. Black ships blotted out the sun. Their leader, a massive general named Hrothkel, opened the global channel. Step down, he growled. Return the traitor, or be erased. Corin walked outside. No armor, no gun, just a comm in his hand. He opened the channel. I am the traitor, he said, because I betrayed fear and chose something better. More voices joined. Jenna, Nico, the alien engineers, the rebels, the civilians. One by one, they all stepped forward. We are traitors too, they said, to hate, to cruelty, to silence. The fleet paused, confused, afraid, until a single pod shot from the lead ship. It landed on the moon. And from the smoke, Veltra stepped out, wounded, limping, but alive. Gasps echoed. She stood beside Corin, faced the fleet, raised her voice. You trained me to kill. You taught me to hate. You said compassion was weakness. But you were wrong. I found something stronger. Something that makes people rise even when they fall. Something no blade can cut. I found humanity. The channel stayed open. The fleet didn't move. Some ships powered down. Others drifted. And one turned away. The Empire had lost more than a fight. They had lost control. Later that night, Veltra sat beside the fire at the moon base. Corin brought her a cup of tea, Earth-style. She took it with a smile. So, she said, what now? Corin leaned back. We rebuild. Not just buildings, but trust. Together. He looked at her. Always. She held up her cup. To the lesson. He clinked his against hers. To the lesson. And the galaxy finally learned. Power does not come from fear. Strength is not cruelty. And humanity, flawed, soft, loud, wild humanity, changes everything. The end.